I got a follow-up question on the PPP stuff. Uh, What if, how, does it work differently with the EIDL? Because I know those loans in particularly are attached to secured assets. So what are the differences between that you need to look for with an EIDL versus looking at getting your PPP forgiven?
That's a great question because the EIDL is not as flexible as the PPP, and it can be really restrictive in how you're to use the proceeds. No double dipping, but it is in first position with those assets, and so there is a conflict. You've got to get permission from the bank to do any kind of sale if you've got an EIDL loan. You have to have the bank has to. Uh, I'm sorry, the SBA. It's not the bank. This is a direct lending from the SBA. You've got to get permission from the SBA for the EIDL because it is a much more restrictive loan than PPP. PPP they're looking to forgive it. EIDL they want it repaid. So they're going to want those proceeds. You have an EIDL loan. It's securing the asset. The assets are securing the loan. When you sell your business, you've got to pay that loan off. You got to get SBA approval first, and then you got to pay that loan off. So they're not going to let it sit out there for 30 years. Once those assets are gone, you've got to remit those proceeds over because it's an easy payment. You know, it's for $150,000. It's like $730, $731 a month for 29, 30 years. So you've got to turn the money over once you sell. Pardon?
It's not forgivable.
Right.
So with that then is if so the orders, let's say if you have an acquisition and you're getting some cash out and then you wanted to pay back the EIDL, you still need to get permission from SBA to go through with the sale, even though the sale would in effect pay off the loan.
That's right.
Okay.
You get permission, you sell it, then you pay off the EIDL. The tricky thing here, as Tom has brought up, is setting that money aside. It needs to go into escrow. So you've got to sell it for more than your PPP loan and your EIDL loan combined. So the PPP, because there's no personal guarantee, that's going to be easier to walk away from. But the EIDL is very restrictive, and there's personal guarantees for loans over 200,000, which the earlier loans were much higher than the latter loans. So putting pressure on selling for the right amount goes back to what Tom is talking about. Stay open if you can. You've got to get a premium for your business if you've got an EIDL and you have a PPP.
As a follow-up to that then, so let's say Tom is in the middle of selling a business and the business that is selling has an outstanding balance of, it wouldn't be this low, but let's say $50,000 left of a $150,000 loan. But as you know, with a sale, time is important. It needs to go quickly and smoothly. And getting permission from SBA, that sounds like going through bureaucratic gauntlet. How long would it take for a business owner to get approval if they were in the middle of a sale, because everything is contingent upon that?
Tom, have you dealt with this yet?
I haven't. We just got the ones that we've done. The bank just told us that hold the money back. It was the bank, not the SBA. So that's who told us. So we held the money back. So, I can tell you that in the past where I've sold businesses that had large SBA loans where we didn't have enough funds to cover the loan, they're very negotiable. Otherwise, what you do is you say, all right, if they're your assets, you need to either start paying rent where your assets are sitting or move the assets out of this premises so we can relet it. And they don't want to deal with it. So they'll take a haircut to sell the assets in place.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm still in buying mode. Should I wait to buy a restaurant until the seller has their PPP forgiveness?
I don't think it matters. That's their loan. The fund should be set aside to do it. So as from a buyer's standpoint, there should be zero liability or concern about that.
Okay, great. That's been a pretty good question. What do I do? I want to buy this business. A lot of the PPP loans have a provision from the originating bank that said you have to get bank approval in order to sell. So this goes back to the bank, and setting aside money in escrow can complicate business sales and can slow them down. So make sure, for those that want to sell that have a PPP loan, make sure you check your loan documents, because the bank may have a provision in there. The difference between the EIDL and the PPP, the EIDL is written directly by the SBA. The PPP comes from the bank, originated through the bank. So they have the ability to write their own loan documents. They've got some bumpers that they need to make sure they're inside, but they have the ability to write their own. So one bank may not have a provision at all, another bank might. So make sure that you check as a seller, you've got to check your loan documents before you sell your business, because the bank could veto it. Now, I don't know why they would, but they could, or they could slow it down and keep you from doing that.